Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and this is Your True Shelf. Today I'm doing a list of 10 books which have been on my TBR for ages and that I have been avoiding. And so you might think, well, if you're avoiding them, why don't you just get rid of them? But they're books generally that I've either heard good things about or people have recommended to me who I trust. So I think, well, I should be reading them, but for some reason I never pick them up. And sometimes I get my daughter to pick a book at random for me off my shelves if I'm having trouble deciding what to read. And she's picked up books where I've thought, but actually when I've read them, they've been amazing. And I think, well, that's been on my shelf for probably years. And I never knew that that amazing story was waiting for me. So I just thought, well, why don't I do a list of books I've been avoiding? Hopefully some of you will have read some of them and then you can tell me actually they're really good and it will inspire me to pick them up. So here we go. So this is the first one, The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I got this ages ago because I'd heard good things about it and it's got good reviews on Goodreads. And then I listened to a podcast, I think it was Literary Disco, and they absolutely ripped it to shreds, and it just sounded like the worst book in the world. And since then it's really put me off. So it's set in 12th century England, and I've never read anything that's set in 12th century England before. And it talks about civil war, famine, religious strife, battles over royal succession, and it tells a story of building a magnificent cathedral. It says it's one of the most popular books of our time. So I really wanted to read it, but that podcast just totally put me off. So any thoughts would be appreciated. The next book is Travelling to Infinity by Jane Hawking. This is the non-fiction memoir of her life with Stephen Hawking. And I watched the film of this with Eddie Redmayne and I absolutely loved the film. So I went out and found the book and then it sat on my shelf gathering dust ever since. I guess my worry with this book is that it's going to be dry or that there's going to be too much sort of hard science in it. But I suppose the fact that she's written it and not him makes that less likely. It's got quite small writing, quite small and dense, which kind of puts me off a little bit as well because it makes me think it will take me a long time to read. So that's the second one. Third one, Memoirs of a Geisha. Again, I bought this absolutely donkeys years ago because I really loved the film. So then I think, well, why aren't I reading the book? I really love the film. Again, I think it's because the writing is really small, and really small writing does tend to put me off, which is again quite a silly reason not to be reading it. So yeah, I guess one of my pet peeves about books might be if it's got quite dense, small writing, because I quite like when there's a lot of speech or something to break it up, or when the text is slightly bigger and not so dense. Book number 4 is Freedom by Jonathan Franzen. So this book, I heard nothing but Freedom by Jonathan Franzen when it came out. It was just everywhere, So the reason I haven't read it is because I think I'm a little bit intimidated by it. So I know that Jonathan Franzen is supposed to be very literary. I kind of tar him with the same brush maybe as Will Self, who people sort of say the same things about. And this is about the story of a family with their son and their daughter and their friend. And it says how we use and abuse our freedom, the beginning and ending of love, teenage lust, the unexpectedness of adult life, why we compete with our friends, how we betray those closest to us, and why things almost never work out the way they should. A story about the human heart and what it leads us to do to ourselves and each other. So it sounds really good. So why haven't I read it yet? I don't know. Probably because I'm intimidated by it, which is silly because it's a book. The next one is Testament of Youth by Vera Brittain. So again, watched the film, absolutely loved the film, went out and bought the book. One of the nurses at a place I used to work with said, this is an amazing book, you really should read it. And it's basically her diaries from when she was a nurse in the First World War. She had to give up a place at Oxford to go and, well, she didn't have to, she gave a place at Oxford to go and become a nurse, and it's her memoirs, and it's supposed to be amazing. And I think, again, look at the size of it. So it is 661 pages, which does put me off a little bit. I guess I'm learning from doing this podcast that big books are a bit scary for me as well. Maybe I should make this one of the big book weekender reads that Simon of Savagery, should I say, is doing for bank holiday weekends, because look at the size of it. Next we have Sacred Hearts by Sarah Dunant, which sounds very good. I came across this book on the TV Book Club, which used to be on TV quite a number of years ago, and I really like the sound of this book. So it says, 1570, in the Italian city of Ferrara, 16-year-old Serafina is ripped by her family from an illicit love affair and forced into the convent of Santa Caterina, renowned for its superb music. Serafina's one weapon is her glorious voice, but she refuses to sing. Madonna Chiara, an abbess as fluent in politics as she is in prayer, finds her new charge has unleashed a power play, rebellion, ecstasies and hysterias within the convent. However, watching over Serafina is Zoana, the sister in charge of the infirmary, who understands and might even challenge her incarceration. So it sounds really good. Just reading the back, I think, I'd really like to read this. So it's really silly, but every time I look at it, I'm like, nah, I don't know why. I really don't know why. So that's another book I've been avoiding. So, number 7, I think we're up to, is The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. And this is another one where I am too intimidated to pick it up. I'm worried that it will be too hard for me to understand, or that I'll have to spend 10 minutes rereading every page. I've never read any William Faulkner before, and I bought this after Books on the Nightstand did an episode about William Faulkner, and I thought, I should give this a try. I found it in a charity shop, I bought it, and again it's sat on my shelf for years, so I don't even know what it's really about. So it says, depicting the gradual disintegration of the Compson family through 4 fractured narratives, The Sound and the Fury explores intense, passionate family relationships where there is no love, only self-centeredness. The heart of this novel is about lovelessness. Only an idiot has no grief, only a fool would forget it. What else is there in this world sharp enough to stick to your guts? Sounds a little bit morbid and depressing. Has anyone read this? Let me know if it's worth my time. Okay, next is A Million Little Pieces by James Frey. This was recommended to me by one of my best friends, Nicola, who she said it's one of her favourite books, and it's also an Oprah book club. So why haven't I read it? 2 good recommendations. It's about a 23-year-old. I think it's non-fiction actually. 23-year-old James Frey has destroyed his body and his mind almost beyond repair. When he enters rehab to try to reclaim his life, he has to fight to determine what future, if any, he has. His lack of self-pity, cynicism and piety gives him an unflinching honesty, a fearless candour that is at once charming and appalling, searing and darkly funny. I'm worried that I won't like him. I don't really like the description of him, and I bought it because of the recommendation, but I'm just not sure if I'll like it, so I keep avoiding it. Right, I'm going to get told off by Simon for this one. This is The Women in White by Wilkie Collins, and I bought this, Simon, because of you, because I've heard you recommend Wilkie Collins so many times, and I saw it in a charity shop, £1.95, and I thought, yep, I've got to buy this, and I haven't read it. It's been there for years. So it's basically, it says, when the hero Walter Hartwright on a moonlit night in North London encounters a solitary, terrified and beautiful woman dressed in white, he feels impelled to solve the mystery of her distress. The intricate plot is peopled with a finely characterised cast, from the peevish invalid Mr. Fairley to the corpulent villain Count Fosco and the enigmatic woman herself. So it sounds really good, but again, look at the tiny writing and it's just put me off, I think. I'm sorry. And it's 500 pages, so I need persuading again that this is worth my time. Finally, we have A Question of Integrity by Susan Howatch. I came across Susan Howatch because my brother loves Casual Mara, which is a book by Susan Howatch, and he's read it so many times, and he's actually bought it for me now, so I'm looking forward to reading that. But this is another of her books, and it sounded really interesting. So it says it's about, it's got a really long blurb, so I won't read the whole thing, but it basically says, when Alice, shy, dumpy, bored and unhappy with herself, wanders the city of London during her lunch hour, she stumbles without warning into a situation which will revolutionise her life. Brought up by a strict maiden aunt devoted to rationalism, Alice hardly foresees she'll be drawn into the mysterious, seemingly irrational world of a healing centre based at a church, a world where chaos and moral breakdown is an ever-present threat to the offbeat but very human inhabitants who struggle to help others survive the maelstrom of modern life. So that sounds quite interesting. It's 21 years old, so it's something, it's quite nice to have something a little bit older sometimes, because I hear a lot about new books, obviously, and not too much about older books. So that is number 10 on my list. I could have actually probably pulled at least another 10 off my shelves. So if this is a popular topic, I will happily do a part 2 with some more books which I've been avoiding, in the hope that I can be persuaded that they're worthwhile. Do you guys do the same? Do you avoid certain books? I don't know why I'm all enthusiastic about them when I buy them, and I think if I read them when I bought them, all would be well and good. But I buy them, shelve them, and then think, am I going to get to them? But equally, because I bought them for a valid reason, I don't just want to ditch them either. So let me know, and if you've enjoyed the video, if you could give me a like or a subscribe, that would be great. And I'll put my contact details down in the box below, and I will look forward to talking to you again soon. Bye.